Welcome back to the Fight Society podcast. I'm your host, Damon Martin. Got a big show coming up today. We're going to be talking to UFC Fight Night competitor Angela Hill, who makes her return to action this weekend after going out and winning the Invicta strawweight title. She takes on Jessica Andrade Saturday night in Houston, one night before the Super Bowl. We're also going to talk to one of the top 145-pound fighters in the world, the new Invicta interim featherweight champion. Megan Anderson is going to join us to talk to us about her win over Charmaine Tweet, as well as her hopes to sit cage side for Holly Holm versus Germaine De Randamie next weekend at UFC 208 in Brooklyn. We're also going to talk to recent winner from UFC Fight Night last weekend in Denver. We're going to talk to Raphael Assuncao, coming off his big win over Aljamain Sterling, as he is now gunning for a matchup with former bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz. So good show today. Obviously, big guest coming up here in just a little bit. Lots of news and stuff going on around the world of mixed martial arts in the past week. Maybe nothing bigger, of course, than Conor McGregor doing an hour-long pay-per-view interview with Ariel Helwani, talking about all sorts of things, from Floyd Mayweather to Game of Thrones to the featherweight division to George St. Pierre to pretty much everything in between. It was an interesting interview. It was an hour-long interview. It was a great interview. Kudos to Ariel for conducting the interview and doing a great job with it. Conor is always must-read or must-see material. It's interesting with the whole pay-per-view format. It's basically $5 to pay to watch it. And, if you didn't pay to watch it, trust me, everybody put the stories out there immediately afterwards, myself included. So it depends on, how much you wanted to pay to see Conor live in person for an interview. But as far as people in this sport go, the only other person that could command $5 for people to watch them be interviewed would probably be Ronda Rousey. And I think if anyone was going to outsell Conor McGregor at this point, it would be Ronda Rousey, simply because she hasn't done any media really for more than a year. And if she decided to do an interview and announce her retirement or whatever, that would probably do bigger numbers than Conor McGregor, just because everyone has the curiosity of what she would say. But kudos to Conor. Like I said, man, he's clearly a capitalist dude. He tries to, capitalize on everything he can do and everything he can make. And listen, if you're willing to pay $5 to sit there and watch him talk, then, good for him. I'm not going to fault him for making the money. Like I said, that's why I've never had an issue with, when fighters talk about making more money or doing things that are going to make them money, I'm not going to fault them for that. I mean, that's the business. It's a dangerous business. These guys and girls are going out there and putting their lives literally on the line for our entertainment. And yes, I understand they could be doing other things, but when they're in this business, they want to make the money they want to make. I'm not going to fault them for that. So if Conor wants to go out there and make money selling an interview for an hour where he doesn't have to take punches and people are going to pay him, good for him. I mean, good for him, and he's one of, like I said, probably two people in the sport that could do it. Speaking of Ronda Rousey, interesting to note, UFC President Dana White did an interview earlier this week on UFC Unfiltered, and he said, based on his latest conversation with Ronda, doesn't think she's going to fight again. She's probably done, quote unquote, is what Dana White said about Ronda Rousey. I got to be honest, I'm a little surprised, that he has been so forthcoming that she's going to retire, because typically with Ronda, I know Dana, is very good friends with her and he doesn't mind speaking about Ronda, but, I think, unless she came out and said it herself, it actually seemed a little odd to me that he would be so, blunt about the fact that she is, that she is probably going to retire. It is a little surprising to me also that Ronda went this direction. I think, I said before the fight, if she lost to Amanda Nunes, she was done. She wasn't going to fight again. But the fact that she gave pause a little bit after the fight and said, I'm going to take some time, I'm going to think about things, and she didn't come out right away and say that, she was going to retire, and she put out that inspirational tweet from, I think it was J.K. Rowling, and, kind of hinted that maybe she was going to come back just based on the, how much you want to psychoanalyze that message in that quote from J.K. Rowling. But, I'm a little surprised. I don't know, for some reason I got the feeling after the fight was over and kind of the way things played out that, Ronda didn't want to end her career on a loss, especially a loss the way that she had to Amanda Nunes. And, I thought after this past weekend, watching Valentina Shevchenko tap out Juliana Pena, that it was set up perfectly for Ronda Rousey to fight Juliana Pena, at some point this year. It's still a big fight. There's history there. Clearly, Juliana is not a big fan of Ronda Rousey from their time on The Ultimate Fighter together. And I think that you can still sell that fight. Now, is Ronda a main event fighter at this point? Yes, she's still a main event fighter. She's still one of the two biggest stars in the sport, right behind Conor McGregor. But, maybe you don't put the pressure on her right away. Maybe you put her on a card with another big headline. Maybe you put her on John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 2, or John Jones versus Anthony Rumble Johnson, and make, Ronda the co-main event with Juliana Pena. And stylistically, Juliana doesn't present as much danger as Amanda Nunes does on the feet. Don't get me wrong, Juliana Pena is a phenomenal fighter, but stylistically, she's not the kind of fighter that's going to come out there typically and start launching bombs at Ronda Rousey, because that's just not who Juliana Pena is. She's more of a ground fighter. She's more of a wrestler, and that would kind of, be a little bit of a different matchup for Ronda. But if this is the end for Ronda, like I said, that's her choice. I'm not going to fault. When a lot of people have talked about retirement and saying that she's giving up or she's walking away or kind of giving her a hard time for retiring. Listen, Dana says it all the time, and one of the things that Dana says that is absolutely true is that when your heart's not in it anymore, when you're not there all the way to be a fighter, you shouldn't fight. And I agree, because this is not a sport where you can be 50% and still get away with it. Let's not forget, people are taking brain damage. People are taking damage to their bodies. People are, putting their life on the line to step in there for our entertainment. And if you're not all the way there, if you're not committed, if you're not, mentally prepared for that moment, the last thing you want to do is step into the cage with someone who's looking to take your head off. So if Ronda's not there anymore, if she's not of that mindset that she wants to be in there, and she's just not in a place where she wants to fight or compete, or she doesn't want to be in the spotlight anymore, she doesn't want to, she doesn't want to deal with any of it anymore. She wants to fade into obscurity and move to the middle of nowhere and raise kids for the rest of her life. Good for her. Who cares? You know what I mean? When someone wants to retire, yes, we can all be bummed. And trust me, I'm bummed when some of the great fighters of the world decide to retire. It's a sad thing, especially, when it's a star or a great icon, you hate to see him walk away, but at the same time, you got to celebrate him, because, like I said, they're walking away on their own terms. Not everyone gets that choice. Some people are forced to retire. Some people never get the chance to. I mean, look at what happened this week with Aisling Daly, former Ultimate Fighter, one of the pioneers of Irish mixed martial arts, 29 years old, basically same age as Ronda Rousey. She's forced to retire because she had some sort of anomaly with her last brain scan that was so scary to the point where she didn't believe she would ever get licensed again, but also, health-wise just, didn't want to take that chance of fighting because of the kind of permanent damage that could be done to her by fighting and taking punches again. Now, she had her career taken away from her. It was a choice because she didn't really have another choice. I'm sure she could have fought in some other, some other place that would have licensed her, or there wouldn't have been licensing. I mean, if she really wanted to fight, she could do it again, but because of safe and health reasons, she couldn't do it. She didn't have that choice. She didn't have that opportunity. And you feel sad for somebody like that because she kind of had it taken out of her hands. Her body said no more, and so she didn't have that choice. Ronda, if she is walking away, has that choice. She's still healthy. She's got a lot of money. So good for her. I think that that kind of opportunity to walk away on your own terms, to say goodbye on your own terms, is an important thing. And I think we should applaud fighters for that. I don't think we should bash fighters for that. And listen, is Ronda's legacy tainted because of her last two losses? Of course. There's no way to ignore that, to say that it doesn't matter that she lost those two fights, but it doesn't erase all of the great things she did. She was the first UFC women's bantamweight champion. She defended the title 6 times. She brought women's mixed martial arts to a level that it had never been seen before and may never see again. So to sit here and say that her legacy is forever tainted, yes, she went out on a couple of losses, and that's always going to be an asterisk when you talk about Ronda Rousey's career, because there's always going to be that, it was a line by my good friend Paul Heyman on Monday night's episode of Raw, and I know a lot of people hate when you correlate mixed martial arts and pro wrestling, but he said, throughout the annals of time, the greatest of all time, you can always sit there and say, yeah, but. And with Ronda Rousey, and he actually brought up Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey was a killer and one of the greatest fighters of all time, and she introduced women's mixed martial arts to the mainstream. Yeah, but she got her face kicked off by Holly Holm. And I know that, I know that's kind of a harsh way to put it, but yes, Ronda's always going to have that issue. No matter how you look back at her legacy, you're still going to be able to attach that to the point, which is, she didn't go out undefeated. She didn't go out on a win. She didn't go out, defending her title. She didn't go out, beating Amanda Nunes, then laying down the belt in the middle of the ring and walking away. She's going out on 2 really tough losses, but it doesn't erase all the other things she's done, and I don't think it makes her a lesser person because she doesn't want to come back. If she's not in it, if her heart's not in it, let her walk away and be happy for her, because she still accomplished a lot. She still did great things, and she did great things for the sport. She helped launch women's mixed martial arts in the UFC. There may not be an Amanda Nunes. There may not be Joanna Jędrzejczyk. None of that stuff may have happened if Ronda Rousey didn't, become who she was and kind of convince Dana White to offer the women the chance in the UFC. So, like I said, if it ends up happening, if she ends up retiring, good for her. Celebrate what she did in her career and applaud her on her way out, because, like I said, Ronda did great things, and there may never be another like her. And, doesn't change my opinion of her. Does she go down as the greatest women's fighter of all time? The story's yet to be written on that. We don't know. I mean, her longevity, she only ended up having 8 fights over 4 years in the UFC, if you really, break it down. But she did a lot of great things in those 8 fights over 4 years. Like I said, does that mean that, that other people couldn't surpass her? Joanna Jędrzejczyk right now, I think she has 4 title defenses, and she's never lost. If she goes and defends that title 10 times and remains undefeated and all these different things, maybe even eventually, they open up a 125-pound division, who's to say Joanna Jędrzejczyk wouldn't surpass her? You could argue Chris Cyborg is already in that conversation, except for Chris Cyborg has not even had the same level of competition. Obviously, unfortunately, we got to bring up the 2 times where she's tested positive for banned substances. So there's always going to be that little bit of an asterisk next to her career. Amanda Nunes seems like she's on a great path to one day, kind of maybe knock on that door. But we don't know. Like I said, Amanda Nunes has faced defeats before. Maybe she never will. I don't know. She's had 2 big wins in a row, and maybe if she goes out there and beats Valentina Shevchenko, she'll start to solidify herself. But like I said, Ronda Rousey right now is in that conversation for the greatest women's fighter of all time, and she did it all in 8 UFC fights over 4 years. That's an incredible accomplishment. So kudos to Ronda. If this is the end for her, she's solidified her legacy. She's done what she needed to do, and if she's happy with it, if she's satisfied with it, and she doesn't want to fight anymore, then good for her. Can't fault her for that. If she gets out at 29 with millions of dollars in the bank, 6-time defending UFC champion, and maybe the pioneer who brought mixed martial arts into the UFC, into the mainstream, so to speak, that's a hell of a legacy to leave behind. All right. With that said, let's move on to our first guest of the show, and that is going to be Angela Hill. She fights Jessica Andrade this Saturday night at UFC Fight Night Bermudez versus the Korean Zombie. 24 hours ahead of the Super Bowl on FS1. So let's talk right now to Angela Hill as she gets ready to make her return to the UFC after becoming Invicta strawweight champion. Well, I appreciate you taking time to chat with me as always. How is everything? Obviously, I'm assuming better now that you got your fight booked and you're officially fighting on February 4th.
Yeah, I was really upset when I couldn't take that last minute fight in December. I thought it would have been a really cool way to close out the year, but I mean, we're literally like 2 weeks away. I feel like that time flew by. So yeah, I'm doing good. I got the notice for the fight maybe a few weeks ago, and I think with the USADA thing, the fact that I was enrolled and that rule that they have is going to change soon. So, yeah, they were able to book me something as soon as the 28th. So I was pretty stoked about that. And, yeah, here I am now.
I love it. I know I did the story back in December that you were fighting Jessica, and then I saw your Facebook post, of course. I was I was heartbroken for you. I think a lot of people were heartbroken for you. But in a weird way, I mean, are you happy that things did play? Not necessarily they played out this way, but I mean, that it did work out all right. You didn't have to sit out for 4 months. You didn't have to wait. It ended up being a little over a month later in the fight. And, you get a little extra time to prepare, things like that. I mean, this is a big opportunity for you.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of things are very positive. you know, right now in comparison to what fighting in December would have been like. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way that things turned out, and I always, even when it first happened, I've always looked at things like everything happens for a reason, or well, maybe even not it happens for a reason, but when things happen, you just kind of roll with it and move. So that's what I did. I continued to train, and I didn't eat too much or get too wasted on New Year's, and yeah, like now I'm getting ready to fight. I feel in shape. I feel ready, and I've been thinking about this girl even longer than I was in December. So I have what I feel like is a really solid game plan to go up against her and hopefully get the win.
I love it. I love it. Let me ask you, I saw your post yesterday about Invicta because, because I know, we talked back on the Ultimate Fighter days, when you're coming into the UFC with literally one fight on your record. And I know, I did not, I was very vocal on Twitter after your release. I said that you faced a tougher murderer's row of fighters than people who fought for the freaking championship. So I never completely agree with you. I never agree with you being, left out of the UFC to begin with. But thankfully, Invicta did come along, and you really were able to grow up in that promotion. 4 big wins, obviously you won the title. How appreciative were you that Invicta was there for you to kind of get the experience that really, in a way, you should have had anyways, and then, now you are able to come back to the UFC as a much better fighter?
Yeah, it was awesome. If I was in any other promotion, people probably wouldn't have seen my fights. The Like even if I was in like Bellator or 1FC, like people don't really tune in for those things live. So you have like people who go to Invicta specifically to see women's fights. Like that's the demographic that they cater to, and that's who I cater to because I'm a woman. But it was really cool because they have that exposure for women, and people said, "Oh yeah, well the people there aren't as tough," but everyone in the UFC was handpicked from Invicta. So you have like a lot of girls there who are still trying to get into the UFC, who could be in the UFC and do well, and those are the girls that I'm competing at just on a what do you call it? Just like a smaller platform, like not as many eyes are on it. But it was the same amount of pressure that I would have felt for a UFC fight, especially after being in the UFC. It's not even more pressure as opposed to if I had just come to Invicta after going pro. So yeah, I feel like I really was able to come into my own and just get that experience up and even make a lot of new fans with like the silly like antics that I was able to do in Invicta. There's no dress code for weigh-ins and stuff like that. So I really got to have fun with it and get a lot of new fans and let people see my personality more. Whereas when I first came into the UFC, everyone was just kind of like, "Who is that? She hasn't paid her dues. Why is she here? Get her out of here!" So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I got a lot more respect from fans now than I would have if I had stayed in the UFC and maybe fought lesser competition. Now people are kind of on board. They see that I have skills, and they see that I paid my dues. I went and ran through, not ran through, but I competed well against like everyone that Invicta could throw at me and got the belt. So yeah, I think people have a lot more respect for me now, and there's a lot of question marks going into the next fight, like, well, how good is she? So yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting one, maybe one of the more interesting fights on the card.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. To that point, though, because like I said, when you went to Invicta, it made sense, and when you made the run through Invicta, I was like, damn, she's really looking good in those fights. But I'm kind of curious, in the back of your mind, when you left the UFC and you went to Invicta, did you always have it in the back of your head a little bit that you wanted to get back to the UFC, that you wanted, to kind of get the chance to prove yourself again, or did that matter to you?
UFC right now has the biggest paychecks. When it comes to like the smaller end fighters, like when you see Bellator's paychecks, like they pay people really well, but usually they were already a star in the UFC, and then they go to Bellator, or a star in Pride or whatever, and then they go to Bellator and they get paid big bucks. But for someone like me who didn't really have a hype train, who doesn't have a lot of followers, like to be in the UFC, that's where I gained that exposure. And get those followers, and then like after that, who knows what happens. So yeah, it was always like, okay, yeah, it would be great to be back in the UFC, but at the same time, I wanted to be wanted by them. Like I wanted them to say, we want Angela in here, and not like, oh, I guess we'll bring you back because you want to be back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely, like, this time around, after, like, negotiations and everything, I definitely felt wanted. I felt like they reached out to me and asked me to fill in for these last-minute fights. And I know, like, Sean Shelby had been paying attention to my fights and my wins and my progress over the years. So yeah, I definitely felt wanted when I got the call back. And that was my main thing. Like, I wanted someone to want me, and hopefully I get that push when I get back in there. If not, I'll just have to make them want to push me, So, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way things turned out and my relationship with the UFC.
Yeah, it's cliche to say it, but it's not. It's nice to be needed, but it's better to be wanted. And like I said, you made them want you. I mean, listen, that's a good thing to be, right? I mean, you go out there and kick ass, and now they're like, we want you in, and that's got to feel good when they're calling you. You're not calling them; they're calling you.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it's definitely a good feeling. That, and I bet they called a couple other people first, and they said, fuck no, I'm not fighting her. but yeah, so I'm happy that I can fill that void for them, for sure.
To that point, and again, you've never shied away from tough competition, from day one on The Ultimate Fighter, and you got matched up with Carla Esparza in the opening round. It's not like you said, man, couldn't they give me someone easier? And then you fight Rose, and you fight all these other fights, and and as I said, I'm not joking when I say this. I still think, even though you've been out of the UFC for the past year, I still think you have more fights against top 10 opponents than a lot of the people who are currently ranked in the top 10. No offense. But that being said, now that you are coming back and seeing your performances in Invicta, where you've looked incredible, you're getting Jessica Andrade, who, a lot of people believe she is the next in line to fight for the title if she can win this fight. Do you feel like now, in a weird way, yeah, I know it's short notice and all these different things, but I feel like this is the moment where you really do get to shine, where this is not an underdog role. I mean, yeah, you may technically be the underdog in the betting line, but I mean, this feels like a really competitive matchup. This feels like a legit fight that could put you right back to where you want to be in terms of title contention in the UFC.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the thing about that is I felt like before I put a lot of pressure on myself to win. Like when I was up against Carla, I was like, all right, this is my chance. It's my time. Like saying all these stupid motivational things in my head and thinking that this was going to be the moment that changed my life. And then it didn't happen. And then the same thing happened with the Tisha fight. Same thing happened with the Rose fight. Like, when you get someone who's ranked really high, you feel like, all right, this is it. This is my chance to, like, prove everyone wrong. And if I fuck it up, it's going to be the end of the world. And now that I've switched gyms and I'm surrounded by people who go through it kind of like every day. Everyone's a pro fighter. Everyone gets fights. Everyone wins. Everyone loses. And their life goes on. Either way, it's kind of like taking a lot of pressure off of me. So I feel like I'm going in there with a lot less weight on my shoulders, and the more comfortable I am, the better I fight. So yeah, I know she's going to be really tough. I know most people are probably going to think I'm going to get knocked out or subbed, or, they'll just say whatever finish comes to their mind, arbitrarily. But yeah, I'm really confident against her. I feel like our styles match up well for me. I feel like she's pretty sloppy and she hits with power, but I just feel like my striking and my movement is better than what she's dealt with so far. So yeah, I'm really excited about this fight. I'm excited to test myself. And I'm excited to hopefully beat her up. So yeah, it's definitely going to be, a scary fight, a testing, what do you call it? Like a big test or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Really excited for the challenge, and I'm excited to reap the benefits of beating her.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I am kind of curious, because, when Jessica fought your teammate, Jessica Penne, I think a lot of people were very impressed with her power and with her striking. And I was excited. I remember talking to Joanne Calderwood before she fought Jessica in September. And I said, man, this is all the makings of fight of the night. Like, this is just going to be one of those crazy fights. Cause obviously JoJo's a striker and, it kind of felt like that kind of fight. And then, immediately Jessica went to take her down, and she ended up getting the submission. And again, kudos to her. It's mixed martial arts. That's what you're supposed to do. But I remember, watching you fight Tisha Torres. Again, everyone said, man, this is going to be a great striking battle. Didn't quite play out that way. We don't have to rehash how that fight played out, but I am kind of curious. I am kind of curious what you expect out of Jessica, because on paper I think to myself, man, this could be a really fun striking fight. But I thought the same thing going into JoJo, and immediately she was shooting for the takedown. So what do you expect out of Jessica? You expect a lot of talk about how it's going to be a knockout and she's going to do this and do that, and then it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be diving for your legs.
I think she's just going to kind of react to what happens. She knew better than to go to the ground with Jess. She knew better than to continue to strike with JoJo just because she got cut open in the first few minutes. I think she rushed into an elbow. So yeah, I think her whole thing is she makes people uncomfortable, however she can. So if she has to pretend to be a striker, she'll do that. She'll just throw power. If she has to be a wrestler, she'll just go for power takedowns, but at the same time, you can see in her bantamweight fights that she's not invincible. So she is going to come in there with a huge size advantage, I guess. I don't like to call it a size advantage because there's advantages and disadvantages to being bigger. But she is going to come in a lot bigger, bigger arms and legs, but I feel like if I frustrate her, it's really going to mess up her day. So that's really and that's really been my game plan every fight since my last loss, is just to frustrate my opponent. And that's all I've tried to do, just frustrate him. They try to do something, I don't let it happen. I interrupt them, that type of thing. And that's been working for me really well. So yeah, I feel like if I just go there, stay loose, and just be aware of what she's trying to do, then I'll be able to react appropriately.
Yeah. To that point, I hate doing this because I hate those he said, she said questions or telling you something she said to get a reaction. I hate that.
What did I say?
Well, no, hold on. So let me preface my question by saying this. When I talked to Jessica, it was before she knew for sure she was fighting you. This was just her, basically I talked to her before she knew for sure she was fighting you, or for this fight, I should say. But the way she was phrasing it was basically saying that, she wanted to get another fight in, that she was promised, the fight that was supposed to be in December. She was basically saying, I want to get another fight to help me pay for my camp to fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk, in April. That's what she's been kind of going for. That's what she wants. And so her idea was whoever she fights, you want to fight, beat, win, and then take that money to invest in a camp. Now, I appreciate the idea. I really do. I get it. But is that a dangerous, idea to have in mind, that she's already kind of planning for the title fight, and she's got the Invicta strawweight champion standing in front of her, a damn tough fight? I don't know. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that she's already kind of, playing things out to that level.
She needs to chill the fuck out. No, no, joke. No, I mean, everyone does that. Like, I'm planning for a title fight after I beat her. You know, everyone does it, and you have to have that confidence going into a fight. If you go into a fight thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna lose," and then I'm gonna have to figure out how to win my fight after that, then that's not what a fighter does. So yeah, it's always a possibility that you're gonna lose. But like, if she is planning to fight the champ, yeah, it makes sense that she's gonna want to put some extra investments into actually winning against her. And I think it's smart for her because like she does have a lot of holes in her striking. She's very open to a lot of things. She drops her hands a lot. So I feel like Joanna would read that and kind of, you know, eventually hit her really hard and drop her. She's been dropped in her fights before, so it's not like her chin hasn't been tested yet. So yeah, I think that's smart of her. But at the same time, she's going to have to, like, cut expenses about half because she's not going home with that wind bonus. So there you go.
You know, what's funny about it is because, you know, for those of us that have followed you from The Ultimate Fighter and followed you in Invicta, you know, we're excited for you to be back. Immediately when this fight happened, I texted your manager. I was like, oh, I'm so excited, so happy. I think I tagged you on Twitter. Like, I was just like, you know, well-deserved, all those kind of things. But for all that excitement from media people, fans, whatever, that's great. You know what I mean? It's like telling a fighter, I'm glad you got a title shot. But at the same time, and I hear this all the time, which is, that's great, but the congratulations will really come after you win. So, I mean, is that really what this is all about? It's exciting to be back in the UFC, but you're not going here just to be in the UFC. You're going to beat Jessica Andrade and put your name in contention for a title shot.
Yeah, I mean, if no one else wanted to fight her, I saw a lot of people asking for fights on social media, and, you know, at the same time, Andrade is looking for a fight in December, you know, and then she's looking for a fight in Denver, which I actually couldn't do because my husband was having ACL surgery, and there's, like, no way for me to have enough time to get accustomed to the altitude and all that. But, you know, it's just funny that, you know, there are people out there, strawweights out there, asking for fights, but at the same time turning down fights. So yeah. Oh, I forgot what the question was.
Well, it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see you back in the UFC,
yeah,
but it's not just
congratulations part. Yeah.
So it's not just about being back; it's about winning.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's cool to be back in the UFC. But I kind of knew that was going to happen when I first found out about the USADA rule. Like, when I first got the call, and they were like, "Okay, we got you back in," and then USADA thing happened, and they're like, "Nope, never mind," and snatched the contract away. But I knew it was in the near future, so that like kind of the joy from that has faded a bit, and now I'm just focusing on the next fight. You know, getting that win, kind of solidifying my place and putting on a show. So yeah, it's hard to be excited for you know, the contract, especially because I had already been in there. But it's hard to be excited for the contract before I get the win. Like, after I get the win, it's going to be like, oh yeah, you know. And even if it doesn't go my way, I'm still going to be like, oh yeah, well, at least I got paid a lot. But yeah, you know, like, it's really just about beating this girl right now. Like, I really want to beat her. I know that I can, and I'm just hoping it works out my way. I'm training really hard for it. So yeah, but I do appreciate the congratulations and stuff, and I'll never turn down a congratulations. You know, if anything, it's a congratulations for like what I did last year, and doing enough to have them take notice and want me back. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it either way.
Yeah. So now, that being said, you mentioned earlier, you know, that, you know, you went to Invicta, and the Angela Hill weigh-ins are always one of my favorite part of Invicta fight weeks. I know you got the Reebok fight kit and everything, kind of taking a little bit of fun out of it, but please tell me there's still going to be something for the weight. Come on, you can't completely abandon it now that you're going back to the UFC, because I loved your weigh-ins. I'm not gonna lie.
I need to find out how Amanda Nunes got that lion mask in. Like, I know Reebok didn't make it, so I need to find out how she got that through. So yeah, once I find out the particulars of what is and isn't allowed, then I'll try to do something, but it's going to be hard.
I'll throw you an idea. Okay, I know you're a fellow nerd like me. I know this from our past conversations. Do you know the movie? You know the movie Alien and Aliens, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So
like have something jump out of my chest?
Well, yes, but here's the thing. Reebok, here's the thing. Reebok actually made a replica, because those original shoes that Ripley, that the Sigourney Weaver wore in Alien, they actually made those last year. They actually have those shoes that she wore in the movie. Ioana and Jacek has a pair of them, and I know because I tagged her on Twitter when she wore them. So just playing some ideas here. Talk to Reebok, because they actually have those Alien sneakers. So maybe you could throw that out there as an idea. I'm just throwing you an idea right now.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah. That's so cool.
So yeah,
I just need to find out a way to make that mech at the end.
So there's an idea, because Reebok makes Alien sneakers. So there's a Reebok tie-in, and there's an awesome movie you could tie it back into. So I'm just throwing you an idea. I think that would work.
I think that's a really cool idea. Thanks for letting me know. You're going to have to cut that out the podcast to think that was my idea. Snip that right out.
Oh, that's funny. Well, Angie, I'm like I said, I know, again, it's kind of, it's exactly what I said before, but I am glad you're back in the UFC. I think it's well-deserved, well-earned, and now I kind of feel like, you and Jessica in a weird way, and I'm taking nothing away from the Dennis Bermudez, the Korean Zombie, Felice Herrig, and Alexa Grasso, nothing against anything, but I'm kind of, the way I'm looking at this now is you guys have kind of just stolen the main event for me, because I'm most excited about this fight.
Yay, good. I'm glad you feel that way. No. No, I think it's a really big fight. Like, I got a huge reaction from it on social media. I honestly feel like it's split down the middle, maybe leaning a little more towards Andrade, but a lot of people are rooting for me, if not just for the amazing comeback story. Everyone loves Rocky. Everyone loves, to see someone who tripped, who had a stumble, but then gets back up and conquers. So yeah, I'm gonna be an energy, and that's gonna really fuel me in the next couple of weeks during camp. So yeah, I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be on the big stage and represent for all the Invicta veterans and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time. Yeah, good ride.
Well, I look forward to it. Well, Angie, again, I always appreciate the time. Obviously, safe training the rest of the way, safe travels down to Houston, and can't wait to see you back in action on February 4th.
Yay, thanks, man. Thanks a lot for doing the interview, too.
Of course. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
A big thank you, of course, to Angela Hill. She makes a return to action this Saturday night. Her fight with Jessica Andrade will kick off the main card 10 p.m. Eastern on FS1, leading into the main event between Dennis Bermudez and the return of the Korean Zombie Chang Sung Jung. Real quick, before we get to our next guest, Megan Anderson. She is coming off a huge win over Charmaine Tweet at Invicta, and she is seemingly the next contender in line to potentially make a move over to the UFC to face the winner of Holly Holm and Germaine De Randamie. I think that would make the fight. I think that's the fight that makes the most sense. And Megan seems like the most legit star at 145 pounds right now, barring a return to action by Chris Cyborg. Hopefully it happens. But we'll talk to Megan about that in a minute. Yesterday, I broke the news. Paige VanZant has signed a deal with Hatchet Book Group to put out her memoir. 22 years old, putting out a memoir, and it's received a lot of backlash from people online. Paige VanZant, coming off the loss to Michelle Watterson, a lot of people, critiquing her for getting a book deal and saying, what could a 22-year-old person, possibly say in a memoir that's interesting to people? And, not saying it's all negative, but a lot of negative feedback. And I have an issue with this. I have a big issue with this, especially for people bashing Paige for getting the book deal and saying that she doesn't deserve it, or what could she say that would be so interesting. She's privileged. She's all these different things, a lot of backlash. And it brings me back to something that was said ahead of UFC 207 when we did the scrum with Dana White, when he talked about, fighters getting upset about what other fighters are making, as opposed to what they're making. Now, this is a different situation because, of course, I disagree with Dana in a sense of, fighters, if you see what another fighter's making and saying, hey, I should be making that, I get it. Stipe Miocic had an issue with Alistair Overeem getting paid $200,000 more than him, and he's the UFC champion. I think he has a legit argument that he should be making as much, if not more, than the guy who's challenging for his title in his hometown and the promotions built around him. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But people bashing Paige VanZant for getting a book deal, you're looking at the situation completely entirely wrong. Instead of saying she doesn't deserve this or she shouldn't be doing this, or what does a 22-year-old fighter with a 4-2 record in the UFC really have to say in a quote-unquote memoir, celebrate it. I don't understand this concept that we can't just celebrate somebody doing something good. Who knows what her book's going to say? I mean, I know that, you could look at Paige VanZant and say she's a pretty girl and, she's had a lot of opportunities, early in her career, especially considering she's not really established her fight career. She's 4-2 in the UFC. She's coming off a loss. What's so interesting? But who knows? Like I said, she spoke, during her time on Dancing with the Stars, she spoke about being bullied, and a lot of people reacted to that and talked about it and different things like that. If somebody else can gain inspiration from her story, standing up for herself or overcoming an adversity, who are we to say that she shouldn't write this book or she shouldn't have this opportunity? And why do we feel the need, or why do so many people feel the need to bash her for this? She got an opportunity. Celebrate her getting that opportunity and then go out and do it yourself. Go out and do it even better. If you think you have a better story to tell, write a book. I don't get jealous at other people's success in this industry. It just makes me want to be that better. When another reporter breaks a story and I didn't break that story, I get that kind of hurt inside, like, damn, I wanted to break that story. So I go out and break another story. That's the competitive nature of life. I mean, we're all competitors in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's, I don't hate somebody else for getting an interview that I couldn't get. I'm not hating Ariel because he got to interview Conor McGregor in Ireland. Do I wish I could have had that interview? Do I wish I could have had that opportunity? Of course. But I don't hate him for it. I don't say, oh, why is he getting that opportunity? Why is he the chosen one? It just makes me want to work that much harder to do a better interview so maybe I get that opportunity down the road, or a different opportunity, or whatever the case may be. I don't like the fact that because Paige is 22, and yes, she's very pretty, and, yes, she doesn't have the most impressive UFC record, that somehow it's her fault because she's having these opportunities, that she's getting these opportunities. Instead of hating her for that, how about celebrating that and then going out and doing your own thing? It kind of brings me back to one of my favorite quotes of all time from Kevin Smith when he talked about, surrounding yourself with why not people versus why people. You say, hey, I'm going to go write a book. And you'll be hit with a million questions of why. Why would you do that? Why would you try that? In Paige VanZant's case, why would you write a memoir? You're 22 years old. Why would you do that? Why do you think you can do that? Why do you deserve a book deal at 22? And Kevin Smith's point is, surround yourself with why not. Why not? Why not go write a book? Why not write a memoir at 22? Why not get a book deal? Celebrate it. That's what I say. Don't stunt her creativity. If she writes a book and she's happy with that and she feels like she has something to say and there's a book company out there who believes in what she has to say, believes in her message, and they want to put it out there, celebrate it. And then guess what? You go out and do something on your own. Okay, so you don't agree that Paige VanZant should have a book deal. Okay. Write your own book. Write your own story. Tell your own story. Everyone has a story to tell. Now, maybe you won't be offered the same book deal for whatever reason that Paige VanZant was offered a book deal, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't write it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't say what you have to say. It doesn't mean you can't do a podcast, do a video, do a blog, do something that's going to make people interested in your creativity and what you have to say. I just don't agree with the idea that just because she's 22 and just because she's 4-2 in the UFC, that she shouldn't have this opportunity it should have been given to somebody else. No, that's the wrong way to look at things. Celebrate what she's doing and then go out and do your own thing. Collect your own, creative income, so to speak. Okay, so you don't agree that she got a book deal. Okay, go do your own thing. Do what you believe should be popular. Do what you believe people should pay attention to you for. Everyone has a story, and if it's not a story that you want to tell necessarily about yourself, tell it about somebody else. Tell it about something. I mean, there's a million ideas out there. I've said numerous times, my old show, The Great MMA Debate, was based on, I used to watch First Take, and I used to watch, Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith argue about sports topics. And I know, people have their opinions about Skip and Stephen A. And obviously the show Undisputed with Skip and Shannon Sharp on FS1. Everyone has their opinion about, people giving their opinions, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed hearing people give their takes on certain subjects. And so I switched up my format, doing my podcast in that way, because I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having topics and just discussing those topics and kind of moving on to different things. I wasn't mad that they came up with it first, and I wasn't mad that they had a great idea or mad that they were getting publicity that I wasn't getting. I just went out there and made my own thing, and I fully admitted, hey, I borrowed this idea from you. Now I'm going to make it my own thing specific to mixed martial arts. That's why I say don't hate on Paige VanZant for getting a book deal. Go out and do your own thing. Maybe it's not a book. Maybe you do a podcast and you just talk about the trials and tribulations of being a fighter. And okay, so maybe you don't get a deal out of it. Maybe you don't get $5,000 a month in sponsors. But you do your own thing and you're happy about it. One of the reasons that I started my own website, nerdcoremovement.com, where I do all my nerdy stuff. I talk about TV and I do recaps and I do movie reviews. I don't make squat from that. That's not a big financial income. My money is made doing MMA. My money is made writing about mixed martial arts, doing podcasts, working for Fox Sports. But I still like doing those other things, and it's just a creative outlet for me. Doesn't mean I'm, but when I see, Nerdist, Chris Hardwick's site get bought for however many millions of dollars he sold that for a couple of years ago, do I get mad? No. What did I do? I went and created my own thing. I went and created my own website because I wanted to be creative in a way that was creative for me. Now, would I like for that site to sell for $5 million? Absolutely. Would I love to build that site into something huge and make it a big source of income for myself? Absolutely. But that doesn't stunt my creativity to stop doing it just because somebody else has a deal. Because Chris Hardwick sold his site for $10 million or whatever it was, doesn't make me say, well, I guess I might as well give up because he got a deal and I didn't. Go out and create. And surround yourself with those why not people, and then you won't be jealous or mad that somebody else got a deal or it doesn't make sense. So, you don't like that she's 22 and she got a memoir deal. Okay, well, who cares? She got the deal. Now go out and get your own deal. Go out and do something else instead of complaining about what she's doing. All right, off my soapbox. Sorry, just had to talk about that. All right. Right now, let's talk to our next guest. She is the new Invicta, I keep wanting to say strawweight, new Invicta featherweight champion, interim featherweight champion. She had a big win over Charmaine Tweed a couple weeks ago, and now we're hoping, my hope anyways, is that she gets brought into the UFC, into the new UFC women's featherweight division. So let's talk right now to Megan Anderson. Awesome. Well, let me start by saying congratulations on an amazing performance last weekend, and congrats on winning the interim featherweight title.
Thank you very much.
So, kind of walk me through this whole thing, because obviously you got matched up with Charmaine. It was a great fight. I mean, obviously you were on a winning streak. She's a very tough fighter, but was there kind of some added excitement when they told you? I mean, literally it was like, I don't know what, a week before the event, they said, oh yeah, by the way, it's going to be for an interim title.
Yep. It was added excitement, but like nothing really changed in my training at all. We just, we had a game plan for her, and I prepare as if I'm going to go 5-minute rounds anyway. So, not really much change. So it was more like exciting than anything. So
yeah. And you've been on a pretty incredible run lately. A lot of knockouts, a lot of big performances. But did you feel any extra pressure, going into that one, knowing that you were the favorite? That a lot of people kind of had their eyes on you. I mean, listen, we can't ignore what's going on. The UFC's making their featherweight division. A lot of people, myself included, kind of looked at that fight and said, the winner is going to be in a prime position to potentially jump to the UFC. So I mean, did that add any extra pressure going into that fight?
To say it doesn't meant means that I'm probably lying to an extent. That kind of an opportunity, of course, there's going to be like some added pressure because that opportunity doesn't come around very often. So yes, there was added pressure, but it wasn't to the point where it was like debilitating. Like I was so worried, like, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get into the UFC. I'm not going to do this. Like it was more of like, okay, well, like now I really have to perform. And, you know, the pressure that I put on myself is more than anything that anybody else can put on me. So I already deal with that myself. And, you know, I put more pressure on myself to outperform my last performance. So that was just kind of like, oh, well, I'm already adding pressure to myself. Like, it's really, really not much extra. It just meant it was like it's a great platform to showcase my skills even more so.
Yeah. So let me ask you about the fight because you went out there and you got the second round knockout. It was a phenomenal performance. Like I said, you've been on a great streak lately with these kind of performances. But did anything in that fight surprise you, or did it go kind of how you had it, in your head?
It kind of went to plan. We knew she was tough. Germaine has a very awkward style, and it took me a little bit to get her timing down. She has this weird, like, kind of head-arm movement, and I remember I was just like, what is that? Like, what? It took me a bit to get that down, but I feel like I was picking off my shots a lot better than she was, and when I went back into the corner, my coach James, we kind of made adjustments, and we come out, we'd made the right adjustments, and it worked.
Yeah.
So we got the job done.
You knocking fighters out is nothing new to you, but how did it feel when you landed those last couple of strikes, the head kick and the last punch, you turned away, referee stops it? I mean, what is that feeling like? I mean, listen, that's a big moment, and it's a title fight, and again, we knew about all the things going into this fight. So, I mean, how did that knockout feel, maybe even compared to some of the other big ones you've had this past year?
Oh, it was pretty amazing because, this is what we'd planned. This is what we have worked towards, for so long. And to finish it the way that we did, I remember the ref called the fight, and I looked over to my cornerman, and I was like, this is it. Like, we did it. This is where it all starts now. We've got to the point where we want to go. Now it's time to go further.
Yeah. Now, this is the first time we're chatting, and hopefully we'll chat again in the future, but I say this all the time, not that you need my advice or not that you need to listen to me by any stretch of the imagination, but I say it all the time to fighters. I've had this conversation with a lot of, people fighting in the UFC that, when you have a captive audience, when you have that microphone in front of your face after a big win, take advantage of it. Whatever you're saying doesn't necessarily mean you need to be crazy or, say something outlandish. Yeah. Not everyone's going to be Conor McGregor, but take advantage because you're never going to have a more. Listen, I hope people listen to our interview and love it, but at the end of the day, that there's not going to be an audience as captive as when you have that 30 seconds or a minute. I loved what you said on the microphone. I thought it was such a strong statement. So kind of walk me through that moment. How much of that was something you thought about ahead of time, or was it off the key? Because I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I had kind of thought about saying something like that because when I have a fight booked, I always visualize the finish and that kind of stuff, and I visualize what I would say to Laura or whoever it is interviewing me after the fight. I was like, oh, maybe I should say something, and I almost forgot. And then I was like, no, I gotta grab the mic off Laura, and I was like, well, like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're only there for that night, and the audience is watching. Why not take that opportunity and say something that normally you might not have said, or that kind of stuff. Like it's as much as fighting is about fighting, a lot of it is about promoting and self-promoting and promoting your own brand. And I feel like I would have kicked myself if I didn't if I hadn't have said that.
Yeah. So, afterwards, and again, you're celebrating the win as a title win, but I'm kind of curious the reaction you got, because a lot of people were talking about that, and the timing couldn't have been better, because here we are sitting about 3 weeks out from the UFC introducing their featherweight division. I mean, it literally could not have played out any better than it did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it was pretty perfect timing. I've got a lot of mixed reactions. I've got some people supporting me and thought it was great, and then on the other hand, I have people, saying I'm on steroids or I look like a man, and I have some people saying that I would be destroyed by Holly Holm in a fight and that kind of stuff. And you're always going to get that. Any publicity is good publicity, and if people are talking about you, that it still means they're talking about you, whether it's good or bad. You're on their mind, which is, it's great if you're in MMA, because you want people talking about you. That's how you're going to get the opportunities. And I take the negative stuff with a grain of salt, and it makes me want to prove them wrong and say, well, you thought that Charmaine Tweet was going to knock me out with her spinning back fist. She threw like 1 million and none of them worked. So it's, you say Holly Holm would destroy me in a stand-up fight. Well, let's set up the fight. I'd be happy to prove you wrong.
Yeah. To that point, I want to get your opinion, Megan, about the fight between Holly Holm and Germaine De Randamie, because they are fighting in a few weeks. My theory, and I tossed it out there on Friday night, after your fight, I said, my idea is that you face the winner. Now, I know Amanda Nunes has said some things about, she wants to fight. I personally don't think that's going to happen, not because Amanda, wouldn't sell it or anything like that, but I think, the UFC has already had that happen with Conor once. They probably don't want to do it again with a brand new title, but that's just my opinion. But that was my thought. I thought you come in and fight the winner of Holly and Germaine maybe this summer. So I'm kind of curious, how do you see that fight playing out?
I don't really know much about Germaine. I did see a stat the other day that her opponents that she's fought in the UFC are 0-6. So she hasn't really fought a lot of top-level athletes. And I'm pretty sure her last fight was against someone who's actually a strawweight, not a bantamweight. That's 2 weight divisions below. So it's easy to, it's interesting. Holly has good stand-up, but I feel like she doesn't really have a lot of power in her hands. And Germaine, from what I've seen, which isn't much, she does have great striking, and I think it'll be an interesting battle. I'm a Holly Holm fan, so I'm going to go for Holly. But then again, I'm a fan of Holly, but I'd be more than happy to fight her.
Yeah.
It's weird. This is what's great about this new featherweight division. There's going to be girls who are going to come up to 145 and who don't want to cut as much weight, that previously may not have been a possible matchup for us featherweights, but now are. There's these girls like Holly Holm who I never thought I'd ever fight before, but I could potentially be fighting her. Now I feel like it's an interesting dynamic of where the division is going right now, and I think there's a lot of interesting matchups that I'm really excited for.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I think you do bring to the table that's a little different than Holly or Germaine, and basically the conversation will come down to you, and, eventually we hope one day Chris Cyborg, is that you are a legit featherweight. You are, I assume anyways, that you're not planning a cut down to bantamweight anytime soon. You're 6 foot tall, right? So, I mean, yeah. So is there part of you,
chop up a limb.
is there part of you that says that though? I mean, listen, you get the opportunity to fight maybe Holly or Germaine, but there is some excitement that you are a legit featherweight. You are the kind of fighter we need in the UFC. And when I say we, I mean as in the UFC. They need you. They need a legit featherweight to come in and fight for that title.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole thing with the whole Amanda Nunes coming up. I respect her for that, 100%. If you have the opportunity, why not go for it? I completely understand that. But the thing is, though, I don't want the division to become like this laughing stock of 135ers just wanting to come up because they don't want to cut as much weight, and they're not going to sign true 145ers. You know, that's why I feel like if they're really wanting to back this division, they need to start signing us 145ers that can't make 135, like us true 145ers that have been fighting out of the UFC for so long, but now are able to have that recognition that we've deserved for so long. Like, you know, Germaine, myself, there's a lot of girls who, you know, we deserve to be there, and I don't want that division to become a laughing stock or, you know, something that they just kind of, it's just between 135 is coming up and trying to go for the belt, and they don't actually sign any of us girls, you know?
Yeah. I know it's only been a matter of days since you won, so maybe this is an unfair question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways, because that's what I'm supposed to do. But I've got kind of a two-part question. One, you know, have you had any overtures from the UFC yet, and, you know, into kind of interest in your fight? And kind of a second part to that question, just a very honest answer, do you believe in your head that you will or should, maybe should is the better word, face the winner of Holly Germain later this year?
First part is no, we haven't heard anything from the UFC. And second is it's two parts. I feel like it's really dependent on what they're going to do with Cyborg. Because I feel like if she, it's all dependent on what happens with her USADA thing going on right now. If she gets suspended, then I feel like I am the rightful person to take that, to go and fight the winner of that fight. But if she's not suspended, then I feel like it should be her. She's earned that right.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, I assume, and I probably already know the answer to this, but I assume you welcome the chance to fight somebody like a Cris Cyborg, because that's kind of what you were gunning for in Invicta before she left to go to the UFC.
Yeah, I'm sure that fight will happen down the line. Don't know when it will happen. You know, the matchmakers have their little hands in the works, and they have their trees of who they want to fight and building people up and stuff like that. But I definitely know that fight will happen at some point. When it happens, I'm excited for the opportunity to fight her.
Yeah. I know, you know, I'm not sure. I think Sean Shelby is going to be doing the matchmaking for the new 145-pound division. I think anyways. I think it'd be crazy for them not to call you immediately and just go ahead and, because listen, right now we don't know a lot. You know, listen, as you said, Cris Cyborg is under temporary suspension. We don't know what's going on with her, and I wish her the best. Cris, you know, I hope she comes back and everything's okay. But again, we don't know what's going on with her. But I think the UFC would be absolutely, utterly insane not to make the call and bring you in immediately, because as I said, I think this featherweight division needs legit featherweights, and I think you are the biggest star they could get right now, and I hope it is that way. I hope you end up getting to face the winner of Holly and Germain, because I don't think, my personal opinion, I don't think Cris is going to get away without at least like a 6-month suspension. That seems like kind of the standard fare, and I don't know, you know, what that's going to look like for her. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's a good way for the division to get off to a good foot. Have you face Holly and Germain, and then, you know, Cyborg comes back by the end of the year. Maybe you're fighting Cyborg. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. You know, that's the thing. Like, some people say, oh, they might wait until after the Holly and Germain fight. I'm like, well, why wait? You know, like, why do we have to wait on that fight? It's not like we're going to be booking a fight, but we can still talk.
Yeah.
You know?
I think they should put you front row, Brooklyn, have you sitting there, put that camera on you. That's my opinion. Like, you already build for the future. You know what I mean? Already build for the future.
Oh, yeah. Well, funnily enough, the exact date of that fight, February 11th, is my birthday.
Oh, see? There you go. What a birthday present, right? Front and center for the UFC.
I know. But, you know, I would love that opportunity to be there. Yeah, I've never been to a UFC event before, too. Like, so it would be my very first UFC that I could go watch, and I would love to be there front row watching those girls and, you know, analyzing my next competition.
I love it. Talk about a birthday present. Your first UFC, sitting front row, watching the first ever women's featherweight fight in UFC history, and you potentially sitting there waiting to face the winner. I mean, that's a hell of a birthday present right there.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Before I get you out of here, Megan, I do want to ask one question because, as I said, this is the first time we've had a chance to talk. I wanted to ask you real quick about your ink, your tattoos, because I'm a tattoo person myself. I got double sleeves. I'm just kind of curious. I maybe it's just like a nature thing. I think anyone that's tattooed kind of gravitates towards that, especially when you're a heavily tattooed person. Because I've had these conversations with a lot of fighters. You know what I mean? When I talk to the other fighters who are tattooed, it's always like this conversation piece that we all have. So I want to ask you about your tattoos. Like, how long ago did you start getting inked? And I assume there's probably more on the way because I know you're never completely done being tattooed.
Oh, no, there's definitely more on the way. I got my first tattoo in I'm going to say late 2008. That was my very first tattoo. I was 18. And it was just like my zodiac star sign on my foot. And I haven't really had the heavies. Like, I got a few here and there, just little ones. And then probably, like, I'm going to say December 2013, I started my sleeves. So I've got them relatively in a short period of time, I guess. But I'm hopefully wanting to finish my leg off. So that's the next project.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
Although my mum is not okay with that. But, oh well.
Yeah, you see, that's a whole new project. When you get in the UFC, you win a title, you start getting some bonuses like that. That's when you start really putting together those tattoo projects. I'm telling you right now, it's how it works.
Yeah, I know. My mum hates it. Although she did say that I needed to finish my leg because it just looks weird the way it is. I'm like, thank you. Like, you just gave me the go ahead.
That's your mom's way of giving you permission. That's the best you can. It may be the only thing you get, but that's awesome right there. I love it. Well, Megan, I appreciate the time. Like I said, hopefully we'll get a chance to speak again in the future. But again, congratulations on an amazing win. And like I said, hopefully next time we're talking, it's when you've signed that UFC contract and you're fighting. Like I said, hopefully the winner of Holly and Germaine. That's what I'd like to see. So I'm rooting for it. So again, thank you for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Listen, everybody wants to eat healthier. In this day and age of processed foods and fast food and all the different things you can put into your body, everyone is trying to eat a little bit healthier. Get away from the processed food and start cooking at home. Now, if you're like me, I can't cook. Not a very good cook, never have been a very good cook, and generally, when I try to cook, it ends with a call to the fire department. But, thanks to Blue Apron, even I learned how to cook. Blue Apron is a fantastic service that actually sends you everything you need to make a meal in prepackaged portions, so you make just what you want and you're left with nothing else. They give you everything you need, all the ingredients, the spices, the fish, the meat, the veggies, everything you need comes from Blue Apron. It's a phenomenal service. And right now, you can actually check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/fight. Now that's how amazing the service is. They're willing to give you 3 free meals to check it out. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. Trust me, it's phenomenal. That's blueapron.com/fight. Your first 3 meals for free. Go to blueapron.com/fight. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook. Big thanks to Megan Anderson. Hope to see her in Brooklyn next week. No word if she'll be there or not, but I sure hope she gets there. Her birthday present is what she wants. Come on, UFC, step up. Bring her out to Brooklyn. I think it'd be a great idea to have her out there. We don't know what's going on with Chris Cyborg. It sounds like from what Dana White has said, Amanda Nunes will not get the opportunity to move up to 145 pounds and face the winner. So who is the winner of Holly Holm and Germaine De Randamie going to fight if Cyborg's out? Megan Anderson is my pick. All right, with that said, let's move on to our next guest. He had a big win over Aljamain Sterling last weekend at UFC Fight Night in Denver, getting back on the winning track after dealing with a pretty serious ankle injury that kept him out of the sport for a couple of years. Returned, got a tough loss to TJ Dillashaw in last July. Of course, there's no shame in that. TJ Dillashaw, one of the best fighters in the world. But he did come back with a big win over Aljamain Sterling, and now he's gunning for a matchup with former bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz. Let's talk right now to Raphael Assuncao. So how is everything, Raphael? Obviously, congratulations on a big win over a very tough opponent. Aljamain Sterling is a very legit guy, and to go out there and get a win, especially after everything you had to deal with the injury and then coming back, it had to feel good to go out there and get a win like that.
Yeah, it was a good win. Aljamain is a tough guy. I mean, and I'll tell you, I'm not giving him too much props, but because he's a former foe, but he's gonna propose a lot of he's gonna give a lot of good fights out there. He's a tough guy. I've been there with the best guys, and Aljamain did pretty good. I mean, and I'm not giving myself all the credit just because he fought me and he did okay. I'm just saying that from a technical standpoint, guy was ready, had a little bit of a strategy. Tough guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, Raphael, because I was at your fight at UFC 200. I know that was a tough fight for you, especially coming back from such a long layoff. And I know you've never been a guy to make excuses, so I'm not trying to do that for you. But do you feel like, you felt more like yourself in the Aljamain Sterling fight because you were able to put, a camp together and you weren't coming off a huge long layoff and the ankle injury? I mean, did you kind of feel more like yourself in that Aljamain Sterling fight than maybe you did in that TJ Dillashaw rematch?
Yeah, for sure. I felt a little bit more. Yeah, I felt a little bit more active. I was able to work some things that I really wanted to work, like my boxing. I wanted to really put some emphasis on my boxing, my takedown defense, which was a little bit of my deficiency. So I was able to work on some of that stuff, but maybe I should have worked on other things. It's always an improvement. I'm just saying that because of the performance. It could have been different. But yeah, I mean it's always a work in progress.
Yeah,
it's always a work in progress.
Yeah. So now that you have come back and gotten this big win, and Aljamain was again a top 10 guy. I think he was ranked number 7 or number 6, something like that in the world. When you guys fought. Now you've kind of reestablished where you want to be in this division, and from my understanding, like you said after the fight, you're gunning for the top guys in the division. You're ranked in the top 5, and you want a guy in the top 5, and I know you have interest in fighting Dominick Cruz.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to, I'm kind of, giving people opportunities. I don't want to fight anybody ranked lower than I right now. I mean, I know, I don't have the star power to do that, because Cruz now, he's a fuck star now. I mean, the guy is, he's like the face of the critics of the bantamweight division. He's the face of the, over analyzing people. He knows everybody now. He acts like he knows everybody by the book. So let's fight. I wanna fight somebody. Aljamain say he's gonna smash me. I didn't see that happening. When I fought TJ, I was coming off that injury. I was gonna knock me out. I didn't see that happening. So let's bring somebody that's gonna do that. I want to see if, Cruz probably, analyzed me quite a bit. And, he knows me to a T. So let's, we can make it happen.
Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts on Dominick, right after you made your call out, he made a brief statement. I'm sure you heard about it or saw it, that he said, he's waiting for the title. He wants the title and he's not interested in any other fights but the title. But we both know, TJ and Cody Garbrandt are going to fight for the title after the Ultimate Fighter. There's no date for that fight, but I'm guessing it's going to be around probably like July, which means the winner of that fight, even at best case scenario, probably wouldn't fight again until, October, November at the earliest, you know what I mean? Unless it's a 13-second knockout. So, I mean,
Right.
Cruz has already dealt with so much time off with injuries and everything. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like him saying he wants to fight for the title and not fight another top guy? Like, because it seems kind of odd because that would basically mean he'd be sitting out for a whole other year. And that's assuming, we don't even know for certain, but that's assuming he would even get the winner of Cruz, of Garbrandt and Dillashaw.
Right. Well, I think that he's probably making some pretty good money on talk. That's the only way. That's the only way I can think. Right? He's probably making us some good chunk change up there. If he wants to sit and wait, I'm fighting for the title only, and this guy's not at my level. He don't want to see me right now. That's some of his comments. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his goals are. I mean, if it's commenting based on my performance, that's fine. I mean, I'm fighting tough guys, my friend. It's not like, if he would have fought Aljamain, I don't think he would have done too much. It's not like a guy that you're gonna go in there and just run over. Or just take him down and kind of run over him, and so I'm just comparing myself to where as if he would have fought him, just by the way he spoke. Was like, okay, yeah, he's not at my level. He just beat this guy, but he's not very good, and I don't think that's correct. I think that I fought TJ twice, and I think he lost to TJ in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, if you put it in perspective, you can look at it however you want to look at it. Like, he's overanalyzing things. Like I said, he's just overanalyzing all the fighters and all the situations. He's got the star power and he's got all the all the cameras and stuff. So he's got a lot of time to do all that. And that's fine with me. Yeah, I mean, it's let's just be real. It's just to be real, but I don't think that's the case. I fought TJ twice, coming off of a major ankle surgery the second time, no excuse whatsoever, and I think Cruz lost in Nashville. So you put all that in perspective, why are you so cocky right now?
Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts. You mentioned you thought that Cruz lost to Dillashaw the first time. It was a close fight. I scored it the same way. I scored TJ winning the fight, but it was a close fight. I take nothing away from Dominick in that victory.
Fight, yeah.
But what did you think of Dominick against Cody? Because I think that surprised a lot of people how well, Cody did against him. I mean, I actually picked Cody to win that fight, but I didn't necessarily see it going the way it went, and I thought Cody, had a great performance. So what did you think of Dominick's performance against Cody?
I think, yes, Cody won the fight. I mean, Cody used, he was kind of slick and used good wrestling, used good takedown defense, used good wrestling, and was just slick. He matched him. He matched Dominick on the feet, and I didn't see anything overly, out of the world. He was just, the two things I just said. I think he just kind of played smart top 10. He was very confident on the field with the boxing and good takedown defense.
When you dealt with your injury, because right before you got injured, you were right there. You were going to fight for the title, or it seemed like you were ready to fight for the title. I can't remember if it was Hayden Brow or TJ Dillashaw at the time, but I mean, TJ is a guy at the time you had a win over, made a lot of sense. Unfortunately, you had to deal with that ankle injury that kept you out for a long time, but it does seem like this is the kind of matchup that does make sense for you and probably makes sense for Dominick as well, because you're a top 5 guy, he's a top 5 guy. If things would have played out differently, you guys could have met for the title a couple years ago, but he had his injury, you dealt with your injury. It does seem like kind of like the perfect time for this fight to happen.
I think so. If the UFC thinks that I'm not worthy, then I can only do so much. I'm not gonna, beg anybody to fight me. I think it makes sense, man. Whoever wins, I never had my title shot. Okay, so I weigh. I'm 81 in the UFC as a bantamweight. So I think it makes total sense. I mean, if he knows he's not gonna, he's not I'm not gonna be a walk in the park, and let's make it happen. I don't wanna. And the guy is ranked a little bit higher than I. Why would I give a guy that is underranked, that is ranked under me, another chance? And why shouldn't a guy that is ranked above me wouldn't give him a chance? So if he's gonna deny that, why? So I'm gonna deny the guy that is ranked under me, right? So it's gonna be that decision that we're gonna have to find out what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hopefully that makes sense. I mean, what do I have to do? To be more verbal, just kind of doing like 300,000 interviews and kind of reach the audience, and I don't know what else to do.
Yeah,
I mean that makes sense. Whoever wins that fight gets title shot, right? So I'm again, putting myself in that situation where I'm fighting the former champ. Just like I fought TJ when I had ankle surgery. I fought the number TJ was number one guy at the time. So now give me the another guy, without having injuries, and I want to fight that former champ again. And then we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious, Raphael. Does your because listen, as a fighter, I understand. Fighters can't respond to every single time they're called out. I get that. If Michael Bisping responded to everyone they call out, he would never actually get to train in the day. So we understand that. I understand that. But in Dominick's case, if he is going to fight and it's not going to be for a title, there aren't a lot of other options available. I mean, TJ's fighting Garbrandt. John Lineker's coming off a loss. Most of the other guys in that top five are, either off losses or already fighting. So it does make a lot of sense. Does it? I won't say respect. That's probably the wrong word to ask. But I mean, do you lose anything when a guy, so quickly dismisses the chance to fight you when he says, "I'm waiting for the title. I'm not fighting anybody else"? I mean, not say you lose respect for the guy, but does it change your opinion when a guy is so quick to say no? You know what I mean? When this seems like a fight that makes sense.
Yeah. It changes. It made me change my opinion for sure. It made me change my opinions towards him for sure. I mean, I understand, man. I don't know if, sometimes money changes, who you are. I don't know. Maybe he's making a whole bunch of money and kind of changing who he is or the way he approaches. I mean, like I said, man, he's not. I mean, he's a former champ. He was a champ for a long time. Yeah, I respect that. That's fine. But he lost the fight. He lost the title. I think, in my eyes, he lost to CJ in Nashville. So what are you thinking? I think you should humble yourself a little bit too.
Yeah. So my last question, Raphael, like I said, this is going to go out on Fox. I know, so Dominick's on Fox. So here's your chance. Dominick Cruz is listening to this right now. What is your message to Dominick Cruz?
Well, my message is simple. My message is, I think I'm the number two. Actually, I think I'm the number three. I don't know why Lineker is in front of me in the rankings. But I think I'm the number three guy, the number two guy. Let's make it happen. Let's make the fight happen. Whoever wins the fight, then we can then sit and we could afford to sit and wait for the next go around of the title, for the next title shot.
Yeah.
So let's make the fight happen. Let's do it. I've given plenty of guys that are ranked under me chances. So here you go, Dominick. Give me a chance for a guy that's ranked under you.
Yeah.
Which is me, right? Which is the number three guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Raphael, I hope it happens, man. Like I said, I love this matchup. Maybe even, like I said, I'm playing matchmaker. I'm doing Sean Shelby's job, but maybe, maybe even you guys fight on the, on the same card as Cody and TJ. What a great, opportunity that would be. So, I mean, then maybe that's a possibility.
That'll be nice. Yeah, sure. That'll be good.
Yeah.
A little bit sooner, the better, but that'll be okay.
Well, Raphael, I definitely appreciate the time, man. Again, congratulations on getting that win and getting back in the win column, man. And always good to talk to you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, buddy. My pleasure, man. Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye. Of course, a big thank you to Raphael Assuncao. Always appreciate him stopping by the show. Next week, I will be in Brooklyn all week long. I get into town on Monday, and I will not be leaving until the following Sunday as we gear up for UFC 208. Holly Holm taking on Germaine De Randamie, of course, the greatest of all time. Anderson Silva takes on Derek Brunson. That's going to be very interesting as well. So make sure to stay tuned to Twitter and everything for that next week as we gear up for a big, exciting UFC 208 fight week. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Damon Martin or on Instagram at Damon Martin to follow along with pictures and videos and interviews and everything going on out in Brooklyn next week. It's going to be an interesting week. It's the second time the UFC is going back to New York after the card. Third time. They went to Albany. Second pay-per-view card. This one didn't get as much publicity, let's be honest. Doesn't have the marquee main event that I'm sure the UFC was hoping for, but I'm curious to see this Holly Holm and Germaine De Randamie fight, of course. And listen, anytime you get an opportunity to watch Anderson Silva do his work, because let's be honest, he's got fewer fights in front of him than he has behind. Anytime you get a chance to see him perform is always a pleasure. So I'm looking forward to seeing Anderson Silva back in action. Dustin Poirier, Jim Miller, that's a hell of a good fight. So sometimes these low-key cards, they don't get the publicity, and I understand they're asking you to plop down $60 to watch a quote-unquote lesser card, but a lot of times these cards end up being a lot of fun. I think there are some fun matchups here, and I'm looking forward to being in Brooklyn. And then just a couple weeks after that, fly out to Las Vegas, gear up for the big double title fight card, Tyron Woodley against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and of course, Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Tony Ferguson. Can't wait for that as well. But like I said, follow along next week, UFC 208. I'll be out there all week in Brooklyn, and should be a good time. Want to say a big thank you, of course, to all of our guests this week. Angela Hill, she fights Jessica Andrade this Saturday night, live on FS1. Main card kicks off 10 p.m. Eastern. Also a big thank you to Megan Anderson. She is the new Invicta interim featherweight champion. Hopefully she will be out at UFC 208. I truly believe she deserves to face the winner of Holly Holm and Germaine De Randamie. And of course, a big thank you to Raphael Assuncao. He just coming off a win over Aljamain Sterling, and now he's gunning for a fight with Dominick Cruz. Thanks to everyone that tunes in. Make sure you follow us on SoundCloud and iTunes. Search for Fight Society, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.